What is going on, YouTubers, gamers, and fellow hobbyists? Welcome to this episode of Board Games, episode number 2, I believe, and it's regarding Monopoly. And later on, look at my Monopoly set, picture of which is depicted in front of you here now. So it got me thinking, actually, doing this video a little bit about the history of the board game Monopoly. I know it's been around a while, but I don't know that much about it. But apparently it can be traced back to the early 20th century. The earliest ever known version of Monopoly was known as the Landlord's Game. That's apparently what it was called, the Landlord's Game. It was designed by an American, Elizabeth Magie, I think is the name. When I read these facts, it's Elizabeth Magie. It was first painted in 1904, but it existed as early as 1902. So Magie, a follower of Henry George, originally intended the Landlord's Game to illustrate the economic consequences of Ricardo's law of economic rent and the Georgist concepts of economic privilege and land value taxation. A series of board games were developed from, 1906 through the 1930s. And they involved buying and selling land and development of the land. So it was in about 1933. The board game, or a board game, had been created, much like the version of Monopoly, sold by Parker Brothers, and we'll come on to the companies later, and its related companies through the rest of the 20th century and into the 21st. Several people, mostly the Midwestern United States and near the East Coast, contributed to the game's design and evolution. By the 1970s, the idea of the game had been created solely by Charles Darrow, so that became popular folklore. So that was, I don't know what the truth is behind that, but it was printed in the game's instructions for many years. And in 1974, a book devoted to Monopoly, and it was cited in a general book about toys, even as recently as 2007 about that. So I'm not sure about the validity of that. So even a guide, even a family games, a guide to family games that was published by the Reader's Digest in 2003 only gave credit to Darrow and Elizabeth Magie. I'll call her Magie. I don't know. Stating that Magie's original game was created in the 19th century and didn't acknowledge any of the game's development between Magie's creation of the game and the eventual publication by Parker Brothers. So I'm guessing Parker Brothers were the first company to develop it, but we will come on to that later on. Now, in the 1970s, there was a Professor Ralph Anspach, or Anspach, again, not too sure on the pronunciation of that, who had himself published a board game intended to illustrate the principles of both monopolies and trust busting. He fought Parker Brothers and its then parent company, General Mills, over the copyright and trademarks of the Monopoly board game. Now, through the research of Anspach and others, much of the early history of the game was rediscovered and entered into official United States court records. Because of the lengthy court process, including appeals, the legal status of Parker Brothers' copyright and trademarks on the game didn't get settled until 1985. Now, the game's name remains a registered trademark of Parker Brothers, as do its specific design elements. Other elements of the game are still protected under copyright law. At the conclusion of the court case, the game's logo and graphic design elements became part of a larger Monopoly a Monopoly brand licensed by Parker Brothers parent companies onto a variety of items through to the present day. Despite the rediscovery of the board game's early history in the 1970s and 1980s, and several books and journal articles on the subject, Hasbro, which is Parker Brothers' current parent company, did not acknowledge any of the game's history before Charles Darrow on its official Monopoly website, as recently as June 2012. Nor did Hasbro acknowledge anyone other than Darrow in materials published or sponsored by them, at least as recently as 2009, which is quite surprising. I'm pretty surprised at that. International tournaments, first held in the early 1970s, continue to the present. I did know about that. Excuse me. I know it's taken quite seriously all over the world. So international tournaments first held in the 1970s continue to the present, although the last national tournaments and world championship were held in 2009. Starting in 1985, a new generation of spin-off board games and card games appeared on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean. In 1989, the first of many video game and computer game editions was published. Since 1994, many official variants of the game, based on locations other than Atlantic City, New Jersey, the official US setting, or London, the official Commonwealth setting, except in Canada, has been published by Hasbro or its licensees. 2008, Hasbro permanently changed the colour scheme and some of the gameplay of the standard US edition of the game to match the UK edition. Although the US standard edition maintains the Atlantic City property names, Hasbro also modified the official logo to give the Mr. Monopoly character a 3D computer-generated look, which has since been adopted by licensees USAopoly, Winning Moves, and Winning Solutions. And Hasbro has also been including the speed die introduced in 2006 Monopoly, the Mega Edition by Winning Moves Games, in versions produced directly by Hasbro, such as 2009 Championship Edition. So what I dug up next is some facts about the game that not everybody knows about Monopoly anyway. And this year, as it's 2017, and the end of 2017, it actually makes it 82 years old, nearly 83 years old as a game. So, 4 decades, people have passed go and collected $200, all the way back to when your grandparents were little kids. So, so let's have a look and see what facts we can uncover. Right, the Monopoly game is based on Atlantic City, New Jersey. Now, I'd heard that in the past, and I just thought, oh, okay, but it's only coming to do this video that I'm actually sort of absorbing this information. Charles Darrow first developed the Monopoly game in 1933, but we did discuss the other game, which it was apparently based on, which was the Landlord's game. So, Charles Darrow himself, he's from Philadelphia. The original game, as it was made from materials from Darrow's own home. A piece of oilcloth covered the board, and the cards were handwritten. The original houses and hotels were made from wooden moulding scraps. The original Monopoly die-cast tokens were inspired by Darrow's nieces, who recommended metal charms from charm bracelets to be used. That's something I didn't know, so that's quite cool, I think. The original game included 10 metal tokens, including iron, purse, lantern, race car, thimble, shoe, top hat, battleship, cannon, and a rocking horse. Well, that is a little bit different from what I've got, as you'll see later when we look at my version. So they did an 80th anniversary edition of the game. I haven't seen or looked for that, to be honest. But apparently that game features one iconic token from each of its 8 decades, including the bathtub, locomotive, money bag, cat, cannon, cavalry, and Monopoly World Championships trophy. Well, that's a novel. Right, Darrow attempted to sell the Monopoly game to Parker Brothers, but was initially rejected for 52 fundamental errors that included the game's length, theme, and complexity. Well, isn't that a story that's familiar the world over. Look at George Lucas and Star Wars, for instance, and all the rejections and criticism he took for that, and we all know how that worked out. Anyway, Darrow first manufactured and sold the Monopoly game in local Philadelphia department stores. So that's another little tidbit there. Following the local success of the Monopoly game, Parker Brothers recognised their initial rejection and negotiated the rights to market the game. So, boots on the other foot then, isn't it, eh? Monopoly was first manufactured and sold in 1935 by Parker's Brothers in the USA, or the US, and Waddington's in the UK. Right, I mean, I do have the Waddington's version, but I think Hasbro did a version of it as well. The Monopoly brand's initial official birthday is March the 19th, 1935, when Parker Brothers acquired the rights for the game from Charles Darrow. The longest game played upside down. There's a strange fact here. The longest game played upside down lasted 36 hours. Why would you play it upside down? That's just crazy. The Monopoly game is currently published in 47 languages and sold in 114 countries. More than 1 billion people have played the Monopoly game worldwide. A lot of these facts I didn't know, actually. Okay, here's another one. The City of London was the first licensed Monopoly game. Right, okay. To make the game relevant to British consumers, the names of the properties were changed to well-known streets in London. This is a practice that continues today wherever the Monopoly game is introduced to a new country. Within a year of the Monopoly game's release in the US, 35,000 copies of the game were being made each week. Here's another one. The original Monopoly game sold for about $2. So there you go. That's quite cool. $2 game. The Monopoly game is subtitled The Fast Dealing Property Trading Game. Oh, it's just kind of quirky. I mean, I know the values don't hold up today, but it's just, I don't know, something about the game that makes it classic. The current standard Monopoly game includes 8 tokens: a battleship, top hat, Scotty dog, race car, thimble, boot, cat, and wheelbarrow. Well, that's not true of mine. Mine actually has 10 tokens, but we'll come to that later on, as you will see. More than 20 different tokens have made their way into the game, including an elephant, purse, and a bag of money. There are 40 spaces on the Monopoly board and 28 properties, 22 coloured streets, 4 railroads, and 2 utility spaces. There are free chance spaces, free community chest spaces, a luxury tax space, that could be the super tax, and an income tax space on the Monopoly board. There are 4 corners spaces on a standard Monopoly board: go, jail, just visiting, free parking, and go to jail. There are 32 houses and 12 hotels in the standard Monopoly game. The standard Monopoly game has 28 title deed cards, 16 chance cards, and 16 community chest cards. Yep, that's kind of cool because it lets me know what I can compare with my set, and it all appears to be complete. Some of the chance and community chest cards have been updated throughout time. The Grand Opera opening card no longer exists. That's a shame, because it's outdated anyway, so you might as well just keep it in there. Okay, the 3 most landed on properties of the standard Monopoly game are Illinois Avenue, Go, and Beano Railroad. Iconic characters in the Monopoly game include the Tycoon, Mr. Monopoly, Jake the Jailbird, and Officer Edward Malloy. Here's another one. The total amount of money in a standard Monopoly game is $20,580. That's quite cool. In the event of a cash shortage while playing the game, the bank never runs out of money. The banker is authorised to act as a temporary mint to print more notes. That's kind of cool. Not many times the bank actually runs out of money. Did you know there's been more than 300 licensed versions of the Monopoly game, developed themed with topics such as sports teams and movies? Okay, countries that sell the Monopoly game include Bolivia, Finland, Egypt, Japan, Panama, and Slovakia. And it's sold in over 100,000 retail stores. That's kind of cool. This is quite interesting. Now, the longest, I'll tell you the longest, I might as well go through this. The longest game of Monopoly ever played, lasted 70 straight days. 70 days. Wow. So, well over a month. So that's pretty cool. Apparently, escape maps, compasses, and files were inserted into Monopoly game boards smuggled into POW camps inside Germany during World War II. Real money for escapees was slipped into the packs of Monopoly money. That's pretty cool. And in the 70s, a Braille edition of the game was created for the visually impaired, so pretty cool. Okay. In 1972, the Commissioner of Public Works in Atlantic City threatened to change the names of the real Baltic and Mediterranean avenues, but the public outcry was vetoed the bill. So that's quite funny. 1978, the Neiman Marcus Christmas catalog offered a chocolate version of the game for $600. In 1998, celebrated San Francisco jeweler Sidney Mobile created the most expensive Monopoly set in the world. And guess what its value is? It's $2 million. 1990 was when they brought out the junior version of the game. Although I know of that, I've never actually played it or seen it. But yeah, and tokens from the United States Monopoly Here and Now edition were flown into space aboard Space Shuttle Atlantis in 2007. That's cool because I've actually touched the Space Shuttle Atlantis. Just looking through some of these now. In 2010, residents of Canada, Turkey, Russia, Korea, Peru and Hong Kong voted to create updated versions of the Monopoly game for their area. In 2011, the Monopoly Millionaire game upped the ante by changing the rules. The first player to make $1 million wins. Well, there you go. In the 2013 Monopoly Save Your Token campaign, fans voted to replace the Iron token with a new Cat token. So that's all kind of cool. 2013, the Monopoly Empire game introduced top brands in place of real estate and fresh, fast gameplay, allowing fans to play a game in under 30 minutes. In 2014, Monopoly fans globally debated on Facebook which of their favourite house rules Hasbro should add to the classic Monopoly game. The house rules added to the classic Monopoly game in 2014 were free parking, fast cash dash for the cash, frozen assets, see the site, and Lucky Roller. In 2014, the Monopoly game allowed players to personalise their own game at home with their own photos. Yes, I remember those. I do remember those. Yeah, that was kind of cool. Because it's like, ooh, personalise your own game. Every few years, national champions from around the globe meet for the Monopoly World Championships tournament. We talked about that. The Monopoly World Championships has taken place in locations including Tokyo, Monte Carlo, and Toronto. Wow. First winner of the Monopoly World Championships was Lee Bayrid from the United States. The first championships were held in 1973 in Liberty, New York. The most recent Monopoly World Championships winner was Bjorn Halvard Knapskog from Norway. A player from the US has not won the Monopoly World Championships since 1974. The last Monopoly World Championships were held at Caesars Palace in Las Vegas, Nevada in 2009. In 2015, the 14th Monopoly World Championships will be held, 2015, so I guess that's already been done. That's in China, so that would have already happened. So these facts are a little out of date from the internet, but not too bad. Over 5,120 million Little greenhouses have been constructed since the Monopoly game was first introduced in 1935. The Monopoly brand has 160 licensees around the world. The Alex and Annie Monopoly collection features the most beloved tokens: the house, the car, the Scotty dog, and the cat. The Monopoly at McDonald's game has been around for over 20 years and is currently available in over 10 countries. Under the Boardwalk, The Monopoly Story, a documentary about the Monopoly game, debuted in 2010 and won an Emmy Award. Didn't know about that. In the book and movie, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, McMurphy joins Patience Cheswick, Martini, and Harding in a Monopoly game. The Monopoly's game has been played by characters in Zombieland and Gossip Girl. You have a 64% chance of landing on one of the railroads each time you go around the board. Chumbawamba's 2002 song, Don't Pass Go, is inspired by the game. In it they sing, well, the facts said yes, but the judge said no, go straight to jail and don't pass go. I think I've bored you with some of these facts for long enough. But let's move on to the game, the history of Waddingtons itself, which is the version of the game I have. The company, Waddingtons, was established originally. It was a printing business, and at first practically all of its business related to the theatre. It entered into the game production in 1922 due to a boom in demand for playing cards around World War I. Waddington subsequently sold both original games, especially tie-ins for the UK television programmes, and games licensed from other publishers. Waddingtons became the UK publisher of Parker Brothers' Monopoly, while Parker licensed Waddingtons' Cluedo. In 1941, the British Secret Service had the company create a special edition of Monopoly for World War II prisoners of war held by the Germans. Hidden inside these games were maps, compasses, real money, and other objects useful for escaping, so we've already talked about that. Victor Watson served as its chairman from 1977 to 1993, and the company was bought by Hasbro in 1994. Well, I guess that explains it quite a bit. Let me see here. Beginning in 1994, Christmas-themed jigsaw puzzles were released annually until 2007. A total of 13 puzzles. The first 12 in the series depicted the scene from a Victorian-era Christmas. The final puzzle depicted a scene from the fairy tale Cinderella. The smaller number of puzzles, combined with the fact that they were all limited editions, has made these puzzles highly collectible. Further jigsaws have been produced since 2010 by a new company using the same brand name. And it actually goes on and on. But there's some facts and details about the game of Monopoly. So let's cut to my actual version of the game and let's have a look at it. Okay, so let's have a look at this, my set of Monopoly, my current set of Monopoly. So I've dug it out of the cupboard. The box on the outside seems in fairly good condition. It's got a picture on the back. Turn it up. It just tells you about it on the back. As was common with a lot of games. Now this is copyright 1996. Now obviously Monopoly itself has had a numerous number of versions and iterations of the game. There's so many versions of this game. This is based on the classic, London board. I mean, obviously they can get like Monopoly. I can go out and get Monopoly Plymouth version, Las Vegas version, whatever. It doesn't matter. But this is the traditional game as it was said on. But even this has been revised so many times. But let's have a look anyway. So we'll take the lid off. Just make sure it seems okay. There's no scuff marks around the edges, no rips or tears. So that's good. Right. First thing I'm confronted with there is the rules. So got the rules. Everybody knows how to play Monopoly, I think. But there they are anyway. Always handy if you should need to refer to them. Now, as was common in a lot of games from, I don't know, I suppose mid to late, or mid 80s onwards maybe, they compacted the boards, because old boards used to be like twice this size and then just folded in two. But later on, they made the boards like this, that folded out into four, to give you the classic board. So the board is, as I remember, excuse me, you got the old collect £200 salary as you pass go, Old Kent Road, Chapel Road, you know, all the usual ones around there, right up to Park Lane and Mayfair. The train stations, the waterworks and electric company, you know, they're all there. So this is Monopoly how I remember it. It's certainly not my first ever Monopoly set, or even my second or third. It's probably my fourth or fifth over the years. I'm talking. The first Monopoly game I played wasn't even mine. It was my brother's and sister. It was their version. I've played on second-hand sets. I mean, I don't know what the set of Monopoly is like now, but you could get like deluxe versions with all this fancy stuff and that. But let's have a look at the contents now. First of all, you can tell this is one of my games. So I've already separated the money, and it comes with a sort of built-in money tray, which is quite handy for when you're being banker. Now let's see if I can remember off the top of my head what the denominations were for money. I think it was 2 5s, 4 1s, 150, 120, 2 10s, 1 5 and 5 1s. I've played it quite a few times. The cards, they seem in good condition. And they're all here by the looks of it. Oh, wait a minute. Yep, they're all here so far. Yep, all the cards are there. All the property cards are there. On the back, as is usual, it says mortgaged, for if you should need to mortgage said card. Now, so pop them back in there. The other set of cards, of course, that you get. Now, in the older Monopoly sets I had, these were just made of card, and they were, I don't know, they were the sort of same colour as these 5s, I think. And the other set was same colour as these blue 10s. And so you had community chest and chance. Yeah, so these are the chance cards here. A little bit, tiny bit dog-eared, but nothing too bad. Just the signs of love that you usually get with a well-used board game. Community chest. There, they're in blue. Let's take this out. Yeah, the dice, of course. Just standard dice. And these are the tokens that came with this set. Now these have changed over the years. What I like about this set, what I love about this set, is it's reminiscent of a set I used to play. Well, it was actually my friend's set. My friend and I, when I was at school, with the racing car as the car. Obviously, they've had many different variations of cars. They don't even have these tokens anymore. I believe they've all changed. The battleship there, or the ship, whatever. The boot is the same. Top hat. I was often the top hat. My friend was always the car. He would never let me be the car because it was, you know, his game. That's, you know, kids for you. Dog. Same sort of dog. There's an iron. Now, that's all I remember in the original game. And there might have been a thimble as well, I'm not sure. Not sure, but there's a thimble. Like a cannon or something. A horse. Or a wheelbarrow. Now I don't know I don't know if they were in the original, whether they've been added in, whether they've brought them back from old versions. I don't know. I really don't know. But it does say on the box here, players 2 to 8. Here you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are 10 tokens, so maybe that's just to give you extra choice, you know, save a bit of the arguing. We'll come to arguing a bit later. So I'll just pop these tokens back. And these are the metal. I don't know if they still are today. They might not be. Then we're going to come on to the houses and the hotels. The houses are actually slightly wider than I remember from the old version of the game. The hotels are about the same. That's okay. Sometimes you'd run out of houses and hotels, but I know for a fact these are all here. What is nice about this game, even though it's a basic set, it comes with this kind of built-in property holder thing, so you can separate your cards into you know, all the properties and just line them up here. That's rather nice. I like that. I do like that as a feature. But this set is in amazing condition given the age of it. It's still a game I like playing, and this version here is still a version I'll be happy to play and not worry too much about, you know, causing too much damage. So I'm happy with that. As a game, that's pretty complete for me. So that's Monopoly, the property trading board game by Waddingtons. And so let's just talk about the game itself. Now, it held such good, well, it holds still such good memories for me as a child. Let's just get the board out again while I'm talking. The rules there. My old set used to be red, the same colour as this board. It was just the length of the board. So the box was the length of the board. Now, in the old days, I very rarely used to win at Monopoly. It was actually my brother who gave me the best tip for winning Monopoly, which was to go for these, aim for these properties here, like the pinks and the orange. Nobody wants the lower ones for some reason, and most people will go for these on these, and they particularly want Park Lane and Mayfair, but they cost so much money, and you know, to buy the houses. I mean, Park Lane and Mayfair, yes, you know, 1,500 and 2,000 if you land on their hotels, but to get there you have to spend such an outlay. Whereas these guys here, it costs you minimal. This side here obviously costs you less because they're cheaper, but your payback isn't quite so much. Although it's quite handy having the two browns here, It gives you a kind of an extra 2 squares to get something back when your opponent passes go, and it's nice to have a few safe squares. Obviously, we all know that playing Monopoly. What struck me as odd about Monopoly is that the middle of the board has never had much use for stuff, and it's been ripe over the years for players to make up their own house rules for it, such as when you pay super tax or income tax, you put the money in the middle, then anyone who lands on free parking gets that money. I don't know if you play it that way or not. Another way of playing was you can't buy anything until you've gone round once. That is not actually in those rules that I've got there. According to those rules, you can buy straight away. But yeah, so these are rules which may have changed over the years. I don't know. I used to hate going to jail, I remember. And I remember getting the counters going, no. Hate being in jail, Although when your opponent had lots of properties, it was nice to go to jail because it was safe. You're not going to land on it and he's out and he can still land on your properties. So that was quite nice. But yeah, so other than the two sets of cards here, the rules as they stand don't require you to have any use for the centre of the board, really. I suppose you could put your trays in there with the property cards on there if you wished. I don't know. I do like the money holder though. That is a nice feature. See, these here, these give you quite a bit of money back, but they cost a lot as well, and there's 2 sets of free. I think it was £150 per house to get these done, and these are £200 per house. It's just crazy. Obviously, having to have 4 houses before you can have a hotel, and that's what you're going to go for, whereas these are only 100 and these are 50. So nice. But anyway, as you can see, it's still in good condition, and I love the fact that they still have this classic version of the game with the same names and the same symbols drawn the same way. It's not changed over the years. This has stayed the same since I can remember. I do believe there's different versions on top of the different versions. Again, I think there is a more modern graphically one now, but I prefer this version because it's the game I remember. That's Monopoly. So I'm happy to say no work needs to be done on this game to kind of restore it to its former glory, which I know some of my games do need. But there you go. So that one's going to go on the shelf, and I'm happy to have that one on board. Get it? Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Nice having you on board this new journey. I'll see you on the next video. So bye for now, folks. Bye bye.